learned the truth that said.
At 19, on the cusp of 20, I have no experience in the romantic field. No exes, no relationships, no first dates or reciprocated crushes, nor have I ever actually had the foolish hope that it could ever be mutual. I'm pretty certain no one has ever had a crush on me. Rationally, I know my circumstances must not be as uncommon as it seems, but it still places me in the statistical minority for my age group. This makes me feel a little out of place and like I live in a different world than everyone else. In this world where romance is simply embedded into the teenage experience, and not only by pop culture, but also by those who surround us. As pathetic as it sounds, anytime someone mentions their ex or boyfriend or girlfriend, or simply any case of mutual feelings, I can feel the distance between us grow because it reinforces that we belong to different worlds. And I know it feels vile, jealous, and spiteful to say, and even more so to feel, but it is honest. Let me explain it to you. You don't feel like a girl in the same way other girls are. The most romantic experience you've ever had was being asked out as a joke. Multiple times, may I add, because that's so funny. If no one's liked you by now, then no one ever will. The girls around you who have experienced these traditional rites of passages in their teenage years have a certain ease to which they move throughout the world. They know they can be loved, and the world tells it right back to them. On the other hand, every time that you have a crush, you're overwhelmed with the feeling of lack, a pathetic sense of desperation and helplessness. You try to dissect what makes the other girls special, the girls who have this romantic experience special, the girls who have boyfriends, even the girls who have exes and who have been liked before. Is it their appearance? What can I do to stop being ugly and be more like them? Is it their demeanor? Sometimes you become so obsessed with comparing yourself to the girl that you completely forget about the guy. What is so wrong with you that you feel like you just can't be liked very much? Life, unfortunately, is not experienced in a delusional little bubble where it's easy to break free of your past and others' perception of us as we frame our self-image in a vacuum. You may ask, why does it matter so much? Yes, romance is something that's seen as intertwined with the teenage experience. A majority of songs and films and books revolve around romance, or at least include it. And for those of us in college or even in high school and middle school, it surrounds us. Of course, part of this desire it's because it feels like everyone has it. But I would argue that statement is a surface level analysis of why it feels so important. For me, romance specifically, more so than any other type of love, feels like the ultimate confirmation that you are intelligent, beautiful, and an interesting person, and just someone likes enough to stick around. In theory, of course, because I know everyone who's experienced teenage love is not exactly living the dream. For someone who grew up quite chronically lonely, feeling like a backup friend and like someone people don't think of that often, it feels like this kind of acceptance is the ultimate remedy for all your issues. While I see the irony in feeling these feelings at an objectively young age, it doesn't change the fact that those of my age have moved on without me into a realm I don't really understand. To believe in the possibility of romance is almost like asking me to believe in unicorns. How can I believe in something that I've never seen before? There's nothing I could put blind faith in, let alone the permanent affection of another. Romance is probably like coffee. It's never as good as it seems. The scent attracts me, but the taste is too bitter and it doesn't live up to expectations. When it's too sugary, it feels like the sweetness is trying to make up for the lack of quality of the coffee. I don't care for any of the traditional romance stuff, like flowers, generally pointless Valentine's Day charades, or really anything else that you see in the movies as the cinematic moment of love. And the concept of dating apps makes me want to throw up. Literally, I would rather eat a slug like those weird spotty ones that you see on the trail before downloading any dating app. But I don't think my lack of appreciation for the traditional depictions of romance, or the ways in which so many of people in my generation have chosen to pursue romance, makes me any less of a romantic. As I've previously stated, I don't necessarily believe romance is something that's deserved or everyone deserves to feel it inherently, which is why this resentment is more so directed inwards. I understand the life choices that got me here, but I can't help but feel like I'm just not meant to be loved like that, or it's just simply for smarter girls or like prettier girls who know that they can be loved by this point in their life. And with this point alone, we can go on in circles and reassure ourselves by saying, oh, don't worry, you never know what could happen. And it's like, of course life is long, you never know what could happen. But just because time is passing doesn't mean you're getting closer to a good thing, and it doesn't mean you're getting wiser either. You could be run over by a circus troupe tomorrow. Either way, I'm not super interested in arguing probability one way or another. I just want to be okay either way. At the end of the day, I think we all want to feel a type of way that makes us feel special. Not necessarily in the context of being unique, but of being valued and fulfilled in some sort of way. Let me take you back to April of this year. Despite being a film student, my biggest weakness is honestly in anything technical, especially cameras. Generally, I feel like a slow learner, but for some reason, it takes a longer time than usual for me to really lock in the process of assembling cameras and other film equipment, and remembering what all the buttons do and how to use them in unison to create a well-exposed image that also aligns with the aesthetic intent for the project. For my cinematography final, I checked out the Aria Mira camera. For the 4 days I had it, I set up the camera and tripod at least 12 times. The first 3 were just to make sure I could, as this was the first time using this particular camera on my own, and sometimes tripods can have their own little quirks. The next couple times were really to lock in the process. Every time after that was just because I could. Each time felt just as rewarding as the last, as if I was learning something new with each attempt and familiarizing myself with this beast of a camera. There were layers in this powerful machinery that I just wanted to uncover. I wanted to know what each button felt like under my fingers until I memorized their shape and function, and even then the image surprised me. And I can't help but think, this is what love must feel like, an intellectual challenge that never quite ends. It must feel like hearing the tiny mechanical clicks of a camera that can only be heard in silence as all the knowledge you've accumulated finally falls into place. Like spending hours agonizing over a single problem, over a single question, only for it to slowly come together and then all at once. But like any good thing worth pursuing, it's a journey that made it worth something. In Anne Carson's Eros the Bittersweet, she defines romance or eros as an experience of pain and pleasure, splitting the mind into two in a moment of overwhelming passion as you're torn between love, hate, and desire. It's a want and a constant reach for something you don't have, and the distance between you and your desired object is what keeps it desired and beautiful. But the lover doesn't actually want the object of their desires, or else it would become plain and ordinary, and just not as exciting as the object you're pining after. You place your own sense of self upon the desired object and constantly reinforce to yourself that you don't have it, and you don't live in the same reality in order to keep the eros alive. After almost 20 years of zero romantic experience, I've started to believe, I think perhaps we can recreate this feeling for ourselves, even in daily life. You know that general feeling of excitement for the world when you have a crush? Even when you know it's not mutual, you spend more time on your appearance, start pouring more into yourself, and start seeing hope for the world, and you want them to see your best self as well, because that validates that you're someone that they could like. Sometimes you don't even want them in that way. You just want them to like you and what that means for your self-worth and how you're perceived by others. I mean, I can't speak for all of you guys, but I've never really liked a dummy. And I think I've realized more than anything, I just want to be perceived as intelligent and capable and interesting, and if a smart person likes me, then of course I must be smart as well. When you have a desire for someone to like you, you spend more time trying to be perceived as interesting. But I feel like a more self-serving and sustainable way of maintaining consistent enthusiasm for life is to be interested. If you make the aim to be interested, not interesting, it recreates this sense of whimsy and possibility that a love interest or even a crush could give you. This feeling that anything could happen, good or bad, but at least it's unexpected and novel, and it won't keep you stagnant. Through this, I think you can kind of recreate this feeling of eros for yourself without the need of external validation. And honestly, you'll probably end up more interesting if you're genuinely a person who cares about the world around you. Maybe it isn't even romance that you want, but this push and pull, this experience of pain and pleasure, of agony and satisfaction, and of realization, this emotional roller coaster and this eternal pursuit of something larger than yourself. But here's a trick, you can't exactly half-heart this. You can't be distracted and put half your effort into it and expect the full effect to kick in. Instead of putting your energy and time into a person you honestly probably know very little about, you need to be fully immersed and devoted to the pursuit of something greater than yourself. Whatever that thing is, make yourself feel agony over it even. That way it's always on your mind and heart. Pure love can be like fickle and fluttery, if that's the only thing grounding you to your interest. Like think about runners, like they complain about running so much, but you still see them out and about at like 5 a.m. at 6 a.m. and no one is forcing them to be there. Honestly, it doesn't even really matter if the world sometimes rewards half-hearted efforts, like someone who used AI to write their essay and they get a good grade, or someone who just looking up the answer to a math question. In addition to not equipping you with the actual skills essay writing or mathematics are supposed to give you, it just doesn't reward you internally, and it leaves you with an emptiness and you think someone else can fill it. You feel permanently undersatisfied, so you constantly search for something shallow or someone else to distract you, to ease you from this emptiness you continue to foster within yourself. You refuse to dedicate yourself to intense and immersive sessions of your practice, so you try to replace the intensity that you would get from your work with other people, wanting them to create a heartbreak so deep that it inspires you to create dramatic art or inspires you to hit the gym. But that motivation is so fleeting. At the same time, you drown out the world so much that you are missing out on the little moments of whimsy that make daily life worth living, not just the super intense cinematic moments. And if you're like me, all of that sounds really great when you're feeling motivated and in that disciplined mindset, but when you're truly lonely, all of it sounds like a bunch of cope. Why should I focus on loving myself so much when others get love from others so freely and easily? The point of this video is not to come to a final conclusion where I state how I finally figured out life by the age of 19. But I think sometimes you just need to remind yourself you don't need to keep having epiphanies and constant bursts of cinematic moments. Sometimes you just need to live without thinking of yourself too much. Sometimes you need a distraction that feels larger than yourself. Not something as shallow and fleeting as scrolling on your phone, but it doesn't have to be writing the next great American novel every day. No matter how small or niche it is, it's just something to keep you interested, not interesting. Anyway, those are just some thoughts that I've been having. I wanted to give my own personal perspective because it would just sound like preaching if I didn't. So I hope that gave someone else a different perspective who's maybe in the same boat as me.